I went to the reception and they had.
And we are going to.
Oh, okay. Were there a lot of people? That's great.
I was the only racist. That's me.
That was Carlos.
It was a good thing. I'm like, okay, so those are the folks that help speak.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Got a great bunch of people here in the room over at the RASM offices and some lovely ladies online too that I see. No men online yet, but that might change, okay? Very happy to be here today. My name is Patricia Tan. I am the chair of your Global Business Council this year and very excited to be presenting this spotlight on the Netherlands. Some of you will know we started our Spotlight series last year. We spotlit 4 countries and we chose another 4 countries for this year. We're kind of flip-flopping between Europe and the Americas. So today we have the Netherlands. Next online will be Colombia. And then we're moving back to Europe to Ireland and back again to the Americas to Panama. So 4 very different countries for us to look at this year. And very excited to be starting in the Netherlands. So as you can tell, I'm from the UK. So our first speaker who is in the Netherlands will be glad to know that I was brought up on Dutch cheese and Dutch cookies, right? So I know all the good things about the Netherlands, that's for sure. I'd like to ask you to mark your calendars, if you would, for our next event, which is in April, which is going to be a panel discussion. The title of the panel discussion is Taxes, Attorneys and Money, What Could Possibly Go Wrong? Okay, so we have 3 experts we've assembled for you to talk about all the little pitfalls and the nuances you might come across in an international transaction. So please save that date. That's April the 19th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think we've got everyone in who needs to be in from our online audience. Let's start our session today. We have 4 very exciting speakers for you. Very happy to welcome a guest from the Netherlands and a guest from Texas, and then 2 ladies who are from right here in Florida. So we're going to start today with our first speaker, Mark Vervoort. Mark is the Manager of Data and Innovation for NVM, which is the Dutch Cooperative Association of Real Estate Brokers and Appraisers. This is the largest association of realtors and appraisers in the Netherlands. And NVM does a lot more. They actually hold several private companies, among which is the largest real estate platform in the Netherlands, the most popular CRM for agents, and they have their very own MLS. And that's the only MLS in the Netherlands. So it sounds like Mark has a very full job keeping on top of all of those things. Mark works with their members and the companies they own to be sure they bring the best tools and services to the membership, making their work better, easier, and in sync with the digital world. Having worked as a real estate agent in New York and Spain, Mark brings a very open and international perspective to the table too. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Mark Vervoort.
Thank you so much. That's quite the introduction. I'm very excited to be here. It's a little odd because I can't see any of you, so I'm like kind of talking. I'm seeing myself while I'm talking. Ah, there you guys. Oh, that's really nice. That's good to see some faces there. That's really nice. Hi. How are you doing? I hope the weather is a lot better there. You're in Florida, so I was a little jealous just an hour ago because we're here in the Netherlands. Our climate is a little dicey sometimes. So we had 2 weeks of pure spring and now there's wet snow outside. So I was kind of longing to be where you guys are with, I think you have a pretty good climate over there. But I'm here to tell a little bit about the Netherlands. What I will do is I will hold a presentation and tell a little bit about NVM, the Netherlands, and of course, after that, there's a room for questions and anything else. So let me just share my screen and the presentation, and let's see if this all goes according to plan. Let's see, there we go. Yes, you all should see the presentation right now. Yes, good, perfect. All right. Let's see if I can also move it forward. Yes, there we go. So let me tell a little bit. I work for NVM. NVM is comparable to what you have in the United States with the NAR. We're the National Association of Realtors and Appraisers. We're not the only one, but we are by far the biggest one. So about 75% of agents in the Netherlands are member of the NVM. We already exist for over 123 years. We have 4,500 members. These members are companies, so we have more agents working within us, but the members are the companies themselves. And our agents sold about 140,000 homes the past year. And 70% of those homes are sold by, and 70% of homes in the Netherlands are sold by NVM agents. And already just mentioned a little bit, we have a lot of different private companies. Funda is one of the biggest real estate platforms in the Netherlands, or by far the biggest, I should say. And they have 78 million monthly visitors. That's quite a lot. And about almost 80% of Dutch consumers also use Funda, our website, to find a home in the Netherlands. Then we have another company, it's called Brainway, which is comparable to what you have in the United States, like an MLS, like a listing service. Brainway is our data company, and that's also where all NVM agents, but not only NVM agents, but also agents which are not aligned with any association. I'll come back to that later. And two of the other associations, if they want to post their property on Funda, which is the most popular portal, they will do it via our MLS. So our agents actually have insights in the whole market, which is a benefit of being part of the NVM. And we have 90% of all Dutch property data in our database. This is the NVM group. To talk a little bit about that, we have a members council, which is a council put together of members who will always have the ultimate vote on the most important issues. These are just agents from all over the country, and they are changed every few years. So there's about 27, I think, right now in the members council. Then we have a general board, and we have the NVM association office. That's where I work. And below the general board, we have our holding company. And you see all these here: Funda, RealWorks, Academy for Real Estate, Flux, Brainway. And we actually have, it's not complete, I just noticed now, a little sloppy from my side, but we have 3 more companies. These are all private companies, or we are majority stakeholder, or we own the company completely. RealWorks, for example, is a CRM system we use. Flux is for property appraisals. The Academy is our own academy to teach agents. And recently, we've also started a new office, which is called NVM Service Office, which is like a back office for agents. So let's say, especially for smaller agents, if they don't want to do all the paperwork or put properties into the CRM system, the NVM back office can, the NVM Service Office can take care of that. And then within the NVM group, we have 3 types. We have a residential, which is by far the biggest, with 27 local chapters. We have the business group, which is commercial real estate, with 6 regions. And then we have rural, which, well, does rural, and there's 4 regions. So let's talk a little bit about the Dutch residential market. I think that's the most interesting for you guys. And then I'll get back to a little bit about Dutch consumers too. So the Dutch residential market, let's talk a little bit about the Netherlands first. We have a bit of a picture. The Netherlands is a very, very small country. We're about 80 million people. I think we're about the size, probably like a little bit bigger, 1.5 times New Jersey, I would say. So it's quite small. But we have a lot of people living there, just like in New Jersey, I guess. Our GDP is about 1 trillion. So that's quite high. And our median income is about $60,000. And unemployment is really low, 3.4% since February. And that normally is quite low. So we have a pretty good economy. And our home sales though, and I don't know how the home market is in Florida, but the market in the Netherlands over the last few years has been really, really, really tight. So what we see, the sales by NVM agents in the last quarter of 2021, those are the last numbers we have, were about 36,000. But as you can see, compared to a year before, that's 23% less. And that's not so much that our agents have a lesser market share. It's just that there's not enough houses on offer. So there's really a crunch in the amount of houses that's on offer. We also see the average sales price is really going through the roof already for a few years. And every year we think we reach the limit and then goes even higher. So in the last year, it even went up again with about 21%. And the average sales price now is about 438,000 euros. So I think for dollars, that's about, I don't know, $460,000 or $470,000 for the average home. And time for sale, which is, you know, very quick. I think for our agents, the hardest thing is to get the offer in, to find those homes to sell. But once you found a home, once you get that listing, it will sell really, really, really quick. And about 80% of houses are sold also above asking price, and quite a bit sometimes. So here you also see the numbers. As I said, 80% is sold above asking price. And you can see here, this is from 2016, the beginning. So then about a little bit below 20% were still sold above asking price. And just in 5 years, that's up to 80%. And also the amount of days the properties on the market went from 2016, it was about on average 80 days. So about 2.5, or not even, what is it? Almost 3 months. And now it's within 23 days. So it's really, really quick. And also this is where you see the price, transaction price changes year-on-year basis. And the last 3 years, every year it has almost been going up 20%. So that's also really something. First, let's also look at the new construction sales. We have about, that's less, we have about 8,000 sales in Q4 by NVM agents. That's 20% down. Also, again, there's just not enough new offering coming up. And there the average sales price is also 466,000 euros. That's about 14% up over the past year. That's less than the existing properties. We do see it was such a high that we thought it was going to level out, but now due probably to, well, of course, due to the whole Ukraine crisis and the energy prices going sky high, which I think you guys also know about high energy price right now, but here in Europe is really, really high. Friends of mine used to pay about, let's say, 1,500 euros a year for the gas. That's about 4,000 now. So it's tripled. So it's really high. But all new homes, all new construction in the Netherlands has to be free of gas because of sustainability. So new homes can actually become more popular again because they don't use any gas, which now with the high price of gas might actually be a benefit in the long term again. So we're curious to see what will happen there. What we see here also is the mortgage, the interest rate is going up a little bit, about 0.5% it has gone up. And the housing shortage, which we have, which I was talking about, was in 2019. We were short 300,000 houses on the market, and that has gone up to, it's about up to 400,000 now. And we don't see that changing anytime soon. Our government is really putting an effort into changing it, but it just takes quite a long time to build a new house. It takes about at least 2 years in planning before it actually is approved and before new homes are built. So we don't think this crunch is going to change anytime soon. Although we do see right now in the current market, because of the whole perfect storm with what is happening, unfortunately, in Ukraine, the high energy prices, we do see there's a certain insecurity right now with consumers. So I talked to a few of our agents, and what we do see is that the amount of interest in the new house, the amount of, how do you say, calls to view the property, the amount of viewings is going down a little bit. But then you have to imagine in Amsterdam, if you list an apartment now, within 1 day, you have about 90 viewings to see it. And now it's about 30 viewings. So it's still a very heated market. So a little bit about how we do real estate in the Netherlands. I think that's hopefully also of interest to you. But first, let me have a little movie for you guys. It should be playing. There we go. It's in English, so you should understand it. Here we go.
Moving to the Netherlands for a new job? Find your perfect home with a certified real estate agent registered with the NVM, the largest and leading network of more than 4,400 real estate agents and experts in the Netherlands. Get your own NVM real estate agent who will guide you through the Dutch housing market. You can also find an overview of houses and apartments for sale or rent online, but only NVM agents have exclusive access to the largest real estate database in the Netherlands. Your agent knows directly which houses are on the market, even when they're not yet listed online, so you'll get the first pick. And if you're still abroad, your NVM agent can even do the viewings for you and check if the house is in good condition and matches what you're looking for. Your NVM agent knows the ins and outs of the housing market, provides local knowledge, has good contacts with other real estate agents, and can conduct the negotiations so you'll always get the best deal. They even do the necessary paperwork. You won't have to worry about a thing. Go to our website and select your local NVM real estate agent to start the search for your next home in the Netherlands. We hope to see you soon. Moving to the Netherlands for a new job?
This is a video we made for expats who would be moving to the Netherlands to explain a little bit about how our agents work. It is important to know and why we do this, which is a big difference, I think, with the United States. In the Netherlands right now, anybody can be a real estate agent. Even if you don't, so you don't need a license, it's not a protected title. If my neighbor would say now, I just want to be a real estate agent, it's possible. You don't have to do any exam. You can just call yourself a real estate agent and open an office. So that change, you don't even have to study if you don't want to. You can just become a real estate agent. However, at NVM, we don't think that's the way to go. So not everybody can be an NVM agent. To become an NVM real estate agent, we do have a certain set of things we want you to do. And we also have different ways of becoming an agent. So I'll explain a little bit so it's more comparable to the US situation. We have the assistant agent, which is more like, it's a first step towards becoming a full agent. You can also immediately start becoming a candidate agent or a registered agent if you want to. But assistant agent, you can help the broker set up the office, set up the appointments and those things. But for example, you can't do any independent viewings, you can't do any home valuations or those kind of things. So it's quite limited. Then you have the candidate agent, which is comparable to, I think, a real estate agent in the US. You can basically do all the viewings, talk with the clients, get an evaluation about the worth of the house. You can buy, sell, do the negotiations, basically everything. The only thing which you can't do and for which you need to be a registered agent, which I think you would call a broker, you can't open up your own NVM office. By law, you can obviously open up your own office because you don't need to be licensed. But if you want to be an NVM member and you want to open an office and become that member of the NVM, you need to be a registered agent, which is a broker. To become a registered agent, it takes a little while. It takes about between 1 to 3 years of studying. There's a lot of exams. There's some theoretical exams, and then there's also a practical exam. And the practical exam is basically the biggest change between the candidate agent and the registered agent. So you can open your office, and also as a registered agent, if you become a member of the NVM, you take an oath, and which underwrites the NVM code of conduct. And also you have compulsory professional training on a yearly basis, and you're obliged to have a professional indemnity insurance to, if anything goes wrong for the consumer, it's covered. And how do these NVM agents work? It's good to know because I talk about NVM agents, but all these agents have their own company. So they're basically competition from each other. We're in one association like the NER, with all different companies. We do share one database, which I think is comparable to the MLSs in the United States, but whereby you, I think, have quite a few hundred, or I don't know how many. In the Netherlands, we have one MLS, which is property of NVM, which I mentioned before, the Brain Bay, and this is where all the agents put their properties in and also obliged to list their properties. We also give insight in the market performance of other NVM members, so you can see in certain regions, which share of properties is sold by one company and which is sold by the other company. We have a lot of shared tools where you see a few here. These type of tools agents can actually use to help their customers. They give insights in the local market. They give insights in properties. They give insights in where people are moving from and where they're moving to. So it's a lot of information based on our database. We don't have a referral database, which I was asked. This happens informally. If you know an agent and another agent knows somebody, they will refer clients. But this is mostly done on a friendly basis. Within our larger members or larger companies, they might have their own referral systems if they're nationally located. Also good to know the commission, which is normally charged to a consumer here in the Netherlands, is about 1%, max 2%. And there's no commission sharing between agents. So a buyer agent is paid by the buyer and a seller's agent is paid by the seller. So there's no splitting commissions, each gets their own. And also what we see now more and more is agents working with a fixed price. So, you know, if you want to sell your house, that will be about, let's say, 1,500 euros. Also interesting to know is that agents who work for a broker don't normally receive a part of commission. They actually receive a fixed salary. They receive a monthly salary. And at the end of the year, they get part of a yearly bonus, depending on how the company has done. So I think that's quite a big difference also with the United States, where I think all work on a commission basis. Let's see a little bit about the Dutch consumer. I was asked what's the difference with the consumer you maybe are used to. I think that's always a very hard question because I don't think there's one Dutch consumer, just like there's not one American. You know, each client, as we all know, is different and unique. I do think a big difference is in the Netherlands is that most Dutch consumers are used to using a seller's agent. Most properties are sold with an agent, but actually the buyer agent is a relatively new phenomenon in Holland, and about 30% now of consumers is using a buyer agent. It is going up because of that market I told you about. There's so little on offer, and it's really hard to, even if you see that house, to actually get your offer in. So more people are using this buyer agent in the hope that we'll get them their home, their dream home sooner. I do think I lived in the United States myself for a little while in New York, and I think a few big differences, and these are amazing. These are really generalizations, so I'm a little careful here, but I think in general, if you look at Dutch culture maybe compared to more American culture, and it's really our generalizations. In general, Dutch people tend to like to get to the point quite soon. So they don't like to embellish stuff. They're quite direct in their communication. Little is off limits, pragmatic. They're not very much from the heart, not pushing a hard sell. That's normally a turn off for a lot of Dutch consumers. Punctuality is very, very, very important. And don't overtell, just show what you can do. And normally most Dutch consumers do have a good high English proficiency, which would be nice if they would move to Florida. And then last but not least, I also was asked to see a little bit how Dutch consumers are looking into international real estate. That's always a bit hard for us to track because we can track them what they're buying in the Netherlands. I'm not really sure what they're buying abroad, of course. But what we do see is we do see quite a lot of Dutch people buying second homes. If they do buy abroad, normally it is a second home. And with Spain being the most popular destination, you see a nice picture with sunshine and beaches. And that's also probably one of the reasons why it's such a popular destination. Because as I told in the beginning, the climate in the Netherlands is not the best. So a lot of people like to move down south or have a second home there to spend the winters or go on the weekends because it's only a 3-hour flight. So I think it's a bit comparable to what Shanta see. I think in Florida, there's quite a lot of people from up north, like from New York, flying in and out. And we also have quite a lot of Dutch, for example, pensioners who like to move to Spain or spend some time of the year there. If we look at immigration more permanently, then there's about 35,000 a year of people who emigrate with a Dutch background. It can actually, the amount of immigrants from Holland is higher, but normally these are immigrants who actually immigrated to the Netherlands. So let's say an American who moved to the Netherlands, who moves back to the United States. The USA is a popular country to immigrate to. It's about the 5th country of destination, but that's only, in the end, it's still only a total of 2,500 a year. What we do see is most of them are quite relatively young, under 45. And one of the main reasons to move to the United States normally is career reasons. To know a little bit more about these second homes and what people are interested in, there is this website, which is called secondhome.nl, which is below in the presentation /en. And they have these trade fairs in the Netherlands where a lot of Dutch people go to get more information about second homes or moving abroad. I think there's also actually some listings from the United States in there, even some from Florida. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, then definitely check out that website. So that's the end of my presentation. I feel I've been talking a lot, so I really hope you have some questions. And I hope especially that it was interesting for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was very informative. Do we have any questions from the floor? Because we're keeping Mark from a late dinner and bed. He's
No worries, no worries.
I told him we would take his questions immediately after his talk. Any questions, comments? Hello, do you want to come and do the microphone? It will be easier.
Now, can you hear me? Is there an outreach program to get more agents to sign up with the main association? Because you've got quite a few agents throughout the country. Is there outreach and what encourages them to join your group to be part of the what's with the group, basically?
That's a good question. We do a little bit of outreach, what we do mostly, but I must admit we don't actively, how do you say, campaign for agents to join us. What we do see happening is that they might normally join one association, and then the end of the line is our association because it has the best name. What we do is we campaign a lot towards consumers to really load our brand. So the brand is really a brand for quality. So what we see is a lot of agents who start out, they might start with another association, normally because of price and those kind of things. And then in the end, the final step is really to join our group.
Thank you. I got another question coming for you, Mark.
Yes, good.
If I heard you correctly, I think you said that many buyers are using agents now because of the short supply.
Yes.
But in a normal environment, what percentage of the buyers actually use agents, or do they tend to buy them?
Yeah, now the percentage now is about 30%. And I think about 3 or 4 years ago, it was about 20% and even lower before that. What we do is that we really, apart from the market, we do think there's a very big potential in using a buyer agent. That's also where we see the future of a lot of our agents going more towards, because we think the buyer agent is the first step in this whole customer journey from, buying a house, and later, if you can stay in touch, you can sell the house again, you can help them look for a new house. So we do think this buyer agent, we're really focusing on gaining more market share. So we're really actively campaigning towards consumers to explain the benefits of using this buyer agent. But the market is definitely helping in it right now.
Thank you, Mark. I have a question that came in online from one of our viewers. She just returned from Bonaire, and it seems like the real estate process there is very similar to the Netherlands. So does NVM extend to Bonaire, or any tips for buying there?
That is actually a very good question. Bonaire is part of the Netherlands, and Bonaire is actually, because we have a few islands in the Antilles, also Aruba, Curaçao, which are right next to it. But I think Bonaire is actually similar to a county in the Netherlands. So honestly, I actually don't know if we have agents there. So what I will do is I will find out and I will email that answer to you. But I think the process in itself would be the same as in the Netherlands, because they are Dutch law applies there. So in that sense, the real estate process would be exactly the same thing. So the contracts and those kind of things and the laws are the same because they're considered like a county of the Netherlands.
So
And
those
any
islands
tips?
in the
Mhm.
those islands in the Caribbean, Mark, are actually part of the Netherlands rather than being independent or some kind of territory.
Well, there's difference. Like, for example, Aruba is like an independent territory within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, so they have more autonomy, I think comparable to Puerto Rico, for example. So there the laws might be different. But Bonaire in specific, and then you have Saint Martin and 2 other smaller islands, they're really considered due to the smaller size to be part of the Netherlands in law and all those kind of things. So they even have local elections there for the Netherlands. So there,
Okay,
specifically for Bonaire, the same law would apply.
I have another question here, actually another 2 questions, so you're going to be busy.
Oh, good.
Hello, my parents are Dutch, so I've been to Holland a couple of times, and my perception has always been that they like to keep their green spaces. They're kind of against development and that sort of thing. So with the shortage of houses, has the government allowed more development, or are they getting more pro-growth versus anti-growth?
Yeah, we do like our green spaces, especially because there's so many people here. That's true. That's actually part of the issue. What we have seen the last few years is that the government has really focused on, first of all, decentralizing buildings. So before we had more of a centralized planning sometimes in the Netherlands for where we would build in the Netherlands due to the lack of space. Then a few years ago, the government has let it go and it's completely decentralized and left to the individual counties like Amsterdam or Rotterdam or whatever. So there's no one plan anymore, which that makes it difficult sometimes. And then also there has been a focus on mostly building within the city limits, which is more expensive, which takes more time, to, for example, get approved. You have more complaints maybe from citizens. So it's actually a lot harder. So what we are as NVM, which we are lobbying also for, is to start building more towards on the outer city limits. It always sounds bad to building in green areas, but at one point you do have to start building in areas where people want to live. And that sometimes means building in greener areas, but that's areas next to the city. So I think part of the housing shortage is due to the fact that building is quite hard sometimes in the Netherlands and getting these licenses approved. So since this year, we have a new Minister of Housing in the Netherlands to really start focusing and putting more effort in getting things approved quicker and making the process easier. But it will take time. So it's definitely part of the issue.
Thank you. We struggle with some of the same issues in parts of the US too, so we can sympathize.
Yeah.
Samira, you had a question.
Yes.
Mark, I had a question for you. This is Samira. I wanted to know if there are any limitations to foreigners purchasing property in the Netherlands. And also I wanted to know if the Netherlands is offering any visa incentives or, for investors.
That's a good question. You can buy a property in the Netherlands, so that's fine. The biggest thing is, the hardest thing is getting a mortgage. If you want to, let's say you buy a property with a mortgage, you would need to open a Dutch bank account to actually buy that property. I'm not sure, and I have to look out for that if there's any specific visa, for example, an investment visa. I think there is. If you invest a certain amount of money, I think it's the same in the US, where if you invest, I think over $1 million or something, you can get a certain type of green card. But I'll have to check that out. Let me just, let me get back on that. I'm not completely sure, but it is not too hard. If you have the money, you can buy property in the Netherlands.
Okay, money talks, right?
Money talks. That's right. No, there really are not that many boundaries, but it is a very important thing though. When it comes to what I said, you might need a Dutch bank account. Those things are quite easy to overcome. There are issues around money laundering. So there's this anti-money laundering, which sometimes is a little bit more complex when it's a foreign buyer, because you have to do certain background checks. And within the Netherlands, it's easier to do those checks because there's a lot of connected systems. With a foreign buyer, sometimes that's a little bit harder, so that might take a little bit more time. But that's by law, agents have to do an anti-money laundering check. It's a European law.
That's a very good point, because in my experience, the money laundering regulations in Europe generally are so much tighter than we're used to here in the US.
Yeah.
David, you had a question.
Hi. Quick question. I was on a flight and I sat next to a Dutch doctor. And he was mentioning to me on the flight there were rent controls, that there was like limits. They could not raise the rents. Is that still in place in the country? Or how does that work? If you buy a property that was already an investment property, are you locked into the rents that were already in existence?
Yeah, you have different types of rental properties in the Netherlands. So you have free market rents, and then you have, it's a complex system. So let's see. For example, I live in Amsterdam, and you have three type of rentals here. You have one, you have, we call it social housing, which is about 40%, and social housing can be anything. It doesn't have to be, sometimes there's an image that it's these horrible buildings somewhere in the outskirts. They can be anywhere in Amsterdam. It's set up so that people also with lower incomes as such can live also within the city. However, there are really long waiting lists for these houses, because once you're in those type of houses, it doesn't really matter how much money you make after that, you can just stay there. So let's say you're a millionaire and you got lucky in the beginning, you can still live there. So there's really long waiting list for that. Then there's another part where there's a certain rent controlled housing, which means if the house is a certain type of size or below a certain amount of size, and there's like a point system, such as, so you can count the points. And then if it's below a certain amount of points, and that's normally due to size, location, certain amenities, etc., then it's rent controlled. So there's a maximum amount of rent you can ask. However, if it's above that point limit, so a little bit of a bigger house, for example, then it's free rent. And then you can ask whatever you want. So then you can ask however. Of course, then once you get a rental contract, those rental contracts can go from between 1 year, 2 year, or a permanent rent, and then it normally is adjusted by inflation. What we do see is that the social rental market is quite controlled, and there's a large amount of housing in that. And the free rental market is a lot smaller. So that's one of the issues also. In the free rental market, the rents are quite steep normally. At the same time, also what we see in the market right now is that investors are buying on properties to rent it out. And because there's such a housing shortage, there's like this whole political debate if investors should be able to buy these properties, convert them in higher rental units or not. It's a bit of a hard debate, but I think our personal opinion is that you shouldn't, try to regulate the market too much, because we see a over-regulation sometimes in the rental market and also in the buying market, which doesn't let the market do its work. And that's why, now sometimes you see the government trying to fix with all these type of things with rental subsidies, etc. And still you have really long waiting list. So that's a very long answer to your question, but renting is complicated in the Netherlands. And it can be really cheap or really expensive.
Well, it's interesting to see the parallels and the differences between our two countries, certainly. The market conditions you described earlier, lack of inventory, too many people chasing too few homes, 20% per year price increases. Those are all things that we're experiencing here and have been for coming close to the last 2 years now, really since the pandemic. So we're all struggling with the same issues. Not that that makes you feel any better.
No, I know it's just, but it is very interesting to see it happening in different countries. And also it's interesting that I don't know how it is there, but sometimes here consumers think, agents have it so good because it's so easy to sell those homes, etc. But they don't sometimes understand is, first of all, it's really hard to actually find the property to list. But also secondly, for both buyer and sellers agents, it's actually really hard because in the end, you're there for your client and you don't want to disappoint people. And you end up having to disappoint a lot of people in this housing market, people who don't get the house, buyers who can't find the house. So it's actually a really hard market. And I hope it will balance out a little bit more over there and over here.
I had a conversation with my husband the other evening, and I told him the next person who says it's a great time to be in real estate, I may slap them.
Oh, very good, very good. I'll join you with
So
that.
we're agreeing with you. Mark, I have one final question from Millicent for you.
Yes.
This is an easy one. I've always thought of the Netherlands as a place where there are more multi-family homes than single-family homes because of space and land.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true? I mean, am I right?
Yeah, so like you mean like multifamily homes as homes which are together, right? Like so two homes together.
As in sky rise apartments,
Oh, okay.
Skies,
It depends. It really depends where you are. Like in the west of the Netherlands, where I live, for example, in Amsterdam and Rotterdam, it's mostly apartments, definitely. But then on the outskirts and other parts of the Netherlands, it's mostly individual houses. But what you do see is individual houses are they're not normally single units, like what you see more in the United States. So single units, but no, there might be like 2 units together or 3 or 4 houses together. How do you call those in the United States again? Like
duplexes, row houses, townhouses.
Row houses or townhouses, exactly. Yes. So it's more of those. So it's really single family homes, which are detached completely. You don't have those as much.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much for your presentation and input, Mark. It was very enjoyable. We learned a lot, and we hope to see you here in Sarasota at some time in the future.
Oh, that would be really nice. Thank you so much for having me. You enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, welcome, Mr. Trine. Very nice to see you.
It's my pleasure.
We're very happy you were able to join us this afternoon. I'll give you a quick introduction here. Steve Trine came from a background and a career in high tech and software project management, and he entered the real estate world in 2009, where he became a broker and worked in commercial and global real estate. Steve joined Metrotex, which is the largest realtor association in North Texas, in 2015, where he's now the global and commercial services manager. And he's been a member of the Realtor Global and Commercial Committees at both the state level in Texas and at the national level with NAR. He is the Metrotex staff liaison to NVM, so works very closely with Mark, I would imagine. And Metrotex is the NAR Ambassador Association to NVM. So I asked Steve today to join us to talk a little bit about NAR's global structure and how the Ambassador Association role in particular could be of benefit to us, some of the resources that we may be able to use. So over to you, Steve. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. I'll share my screen. And let's see if we can get the presentation up here. There we go. Okay, so Ambassador Associations, it's kind of a interesting thing, because what really happens is NAR has what we call bilateral partners, and these bilateral partners are associations like NVM in the Netherlands, AMPI in Mexico. There's many partners around the world, and NAR's 3-level structure here in the United States all falls into this. So what we do with the Ambassador Association is work to develop the real estate market model in other countries to promote the openness of the market and to promote the availability of properties. So NAR provides expertise, regulatory advice, and model ethics guidelines to all these markets, and then we partner with those associations and allow them to use the Realtor brand. So in the US, we have the national, state, and local level, and then at the national level, NAR partners with these bilateral partners in other countries. To make all the necessary connections, we have global ambassadors and regional ambassadors, and they represent NAR to those bilateral partners. The ambassador associations themselves are basically an association to association staff level relationship. And the ambassador associations are there to provide resources and assistance to the foreign associations, the bilateral partners, and to the global ambassador team. So this is kind of a diagram of the relationship, and this is going to be really, it's an eyesore because it's confusing. I'm not going to leave it up for very long for the simple reason that what this really means is that the relationships are defined between the partners and the global ambassadors. So I work with Samira, and I work with Mark Vervoort and also Sievert, who's another NVM staffer, and we communicate with each other and make plans for our associations to work together. So for instance, when the COVID started, NVM and Metrotex were new ambassador association partners, and one of the big questions that was coming up was the iBuyer phenomenon. And NVM wanted to get more information on what that was doing to our market. As it turns out, we didn't really know yet either because it was a new phenomenon here as well, but we did manage to start collecting data and share that with NVM. In addition, when you have less developed bilateral partners, they may not, for instance, have an established MLS. They may not have established licensing or regulation in their market. And the Ambassador Association works with the bilateral partner to define what those needs are and why it would benefit the market, and provide them with talking points, just management assistant approach. How are you going to deal with these things? We have, for instance, in the US, a well-established government affairs wings in our associations, and we do a lot of work with the state, local, and national level legislative efforts to make sure that the legislators understand what the market really does, and also to work to protect our clients' property rights interests. And how you go about doing that is often something that people in other countries don't understand how our system works, and they may not always understand why this is so important because of the way their relationship with their legislators works. So, there's a lot of discussion goes on. It's not necessarily that we're trying to give them, tell them how to do things, but they often want to know how we do it so that they can adapt it for their own purposes. The biggest thing is that establishing the relationships between the bilateral partner, the Ambassador Association, and the global ambassador is critical. It takes time and effort on everybody's part, and it requires that both the association and the staff member recognize that and be willing to commit. So it's just really important that everybody realize that this is not something where in February or January of 2020, Metrotex became the NVM's Ambassador Association partner, and everything was all hunky-dory and we were all ready to go. It's still building as a relationship. We're still working out what the needs are and how we can assist, and we're still building that. And of course, COVID did not help make that any easier. So who can be an Ambassador Association? Any local realtor association can apply to be an ambassador association. State associations can also fulfill that role, although that's less common. And the fundamental requirements are that you have to be able to assign a staff person to be a consistent point of contact. It's really much more difficult to establish these relationships if there's not a single point of contact or a single point of coordination for these. The association also has to have the financial capability to support the bilateral partner at the NAR conference. Now, this doesn't mean that we're paying their way there or that we're paying for their meals or anything, but we do have to have both staff and volunteers at the NAR meetings who are willing to spend time with the bilateral partners and make sure that they're getting to the right meetings, make sure that they understand what's going on around them, make sure that they're, you know, not having difficulties with travel and rooms and things like that. So the financial capability that comes in is mostly making sure we have both staff and association members present. We also work with other ambassador associations and with NAR to host usually a reception for the bilateral partner attendees and just make sure that their experience there is good. So the third qualification, and this is less of a hard qualification, but business connections or personal connections with the partner association country are very helpful. So if you have members of your association or board members in particular who have business connections in another country, that may give you a little bit more of a leg up in becoming the ambassador association for that country. And then one of the things I would highlight is I attached as part of this presentation material, there's a standard NAR presentation on what an ambassador association is and what it does, covers all these points. And then if you need contacts and more information, there's two people in particular at NAR that are very, very important and very helpful in this. And if you go to the NAR meetings, you've probably met both of them in the global. Alejandro Escudero is the NAR Director of Global Strategy and Engagement. He's also the inspiration and brains behind the NAR en Español. Lisa Calarco, a longtime NAR staff member for Global and has been involved for many years and is, if you get the Global newsletter from NAR, she's the one who pulls it together and sends it out. And then finally, if I can answer any questions on what we do and how and why, I'd be more than happy to do so. I'm the Metrotex Association Global and Commercial Services Manager. The note there about being on LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and other social media, I have a extremely unusual surname. So if you look on any of those apps, and there's probably 2 or 3 Steve Trines, and one of them's going to be from Texas. That's me. So I'll stop sharing now and be ready to take questions.
Thank you, Steve. That was a great introduction. For those of our members who don't know, the Realtor Association of Sarasota Manatee is the ambassador association to Colombia. So that's why you will see us consistently having exchanges with the Colombian Association and developing that relationship with them over the years too. One of the interesting points I think you made, Steve, was how, you know, trends like the iBuyer, you know, so we're trying to, we help the other association, they may have a trend, we might want to see what's happening. The time between the trends now with technology, though, doesn't give us a lot of time. So we started with iBuyers and then they were everywhere in the world real quickly after that. But that's certainly a key area, because as we heard from Mark earlier, they have the same problems as we have. You know, they have the same issues in their market as we have. So the more we can help and share with each other, the better, that's for sure. Okay, I have a question from the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation, Steve. When you said that having business connections in the Netherlands helps, can you more specifically define how close those connections need to be or what that ideally looks like, please?
Yeah, so for instance, one of the gentlemen in the audience here says that his parents were from the Netherlands and he had traveled there. Another one said he'd been on a flight to the Netherlands and met a Dutch doctor. Those are kind of the start, but if you have members of your association who do business, maybe their business partner has a company that does business with the Netherlands, or maybe you have established a regular relationship with visitors from the Netherlands to come to Florida for the winter. You establish a relationship. They may want to invest money here, or because you know that they deal with a certain kind of business, you may have business connections here that are interested in it. So as the relationship develops back and forth, these become very important connections because they tell you on a regular basis what's going on the other side of the relationship, and keep you informed so that you know about it. As Americans, we tend not to pay much attention to what's happening in the other parts of the world. And by having this kind of a personal connection, you are probably more aware than most of what's going on in another country. So having visited there, having lived there, or whatever, you might pay attention to that, what's going on politically and what's going on economically in that other country, in the Netherlands. So those are what I mean by business connections. You just, it's not necessarily that you have a real estate business partner in the Netherlands, although that could be it. It's just that there has to be some reason for you to communicate with and travel back and forth.
Yeah, another example of that might be if you had a large community here of Dutch, for instance, or in your area, Steve, that the cultural connections, the ethnicities moving to and fro. And one of the reasons we work so well with Colombia is Port Manatee, which is our local port here, handles a lot of incoming and outgoing shipments to and from the Americas. So we actually have a very busy port where we have a lot of business with goods coming in from that part of the Americas. So Colombia made a lot of sense for us. We also have a very much growing population in Sarasota and Manatee counties of Colombians moving here. I've lived here 25 years and seen that population grow over time, but a lot more recently, in more recent 4 or 5 years. Well, pre-pandemic again, right? We'll preface everything with that.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Steve? Go ahead, Nelson.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for your presentation. I was born and raised in Ghana and West Africa. Now, I may have heard some presentation that NAR has a relationship, like a relationship with Ghana. I'm not sure. So if you can verify that. And then secondly, I also like to know if the NAR has relationships with any African countries, real estate wise. Can you elaborate on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in fact, last week we had the first CIPS class on Africa, and this was delivered by Maurice Hampton and Ron Phipps, who's a CIPS instructor. They were talking mostly about Nigeria, South Africa, and actually Ghana. So that was very interesting. I'm not aware of who all the partners are in African countries, but we do have NAR relationships with a number of them. And you can find the full list up on NAR.realtor and look at the search for bilateral partners, and you will find the list. And also the global ambassador connection. If there's a global ambassador assigned to a particular country, you can search for them by country or by name of the ambassador themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carla and I were actually in the same class, Steve, and it was an excellent class. I think the South African connection is probably the longest standing in my experience. We've always had a good relationship with South Africa. They're always very well presented at the NAR international conventions. Nigeria more recent, and then I think Ghana was the last one that we made a connection with, but I'm sure that will be growing over time. So we can certainly help you with that, Millicent.
Yeah, we have a large population of African immigrants in Dallas, and one of my Global Business Council past chairs is from Niger, which is not the same as Nigeria. It's a French-speaking country north of Ghana, north and east. But she does a lot of business back and forth between Niger and the U.S. And because of that, she also does a lot of business with the Middle East because of the business connections. So I think that that's a much larger component of our international business than we realize, because it's very much it's not highly publicized, so most people aren't aware of it. There's a lot more going on there than we think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of commercial investments, bigger developments, because they're obviously developing countries, so that there are more big projects that take place that aren't really on our radar.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions for Steve before we let him go? We'd love to have you stay and have a glass of wine with us at the end of the meeting, Steve. So it's not going to work, right?
I wish I was there to do that. I always enjoy a good glass of wine, and I like sampling wines from around the world. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So Steve's talked to us a little bit about the Global Ambassador Program from NAR. And one of the components of the global program is a global ambassador who works closely with the Ambassador Association. And we are very honored here to have a global ambassador in our midst, working in our market. So Samira Easton is the global ambassador to Belgium and the Netherlands, and she's going to be our next speaker. So Samira has worked for many years in international development and higher education. She became a licensed realtor in 2017, and she's currently a sales associate with the Venice office of Premier Sotheby's International Realty. So now we all know where to find her and track her down, right? Born in Beirut, Samira lived most of her life in Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Libya, and Italy. And she's traveled extensively and speaks a number of languages, including French, Italian, Arabic, and Spanish. Always open for referrals in a language situation, right? Samira actively participates in a number of ways in many global real estate organizations. And she was recently reappointed for the second year as NAR's Global Ambassador to Belgium and the Netherlands. Please welcome Samira Easton. It's all yours.
All right, wonderful. How do I click? Forward?
Give it a second. Denise, do you have the? Okay. Denise will pick it for now.
Okay. Did I click it here?
You can. You did it forward, backward.
Okay. All right. Hope everybody's enjoyed this presentation so far.
Yeah.
I was very excited to see when Pat said, let's do the Netherlands. And I said, well, here I am. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Global Ambassador Program by the NAR. And global ambassadors are US-based realtors who are appointed by the NAR president to serve as ambassadors to their assigned country or a group of countries. They help maintain NAR's relationships with its bilateral partners in those countries. It's an annual appointment. The reappointment usually starts around May. Applications are due in May, June. And then the final appointments are usually made around November. You get the letter from the NAR president saying you've been appointed as the NAR Global Ambassador to XYZ country. So my path was very bizarre because I knew nothing about this, and I'm a fairly recent, realtor. So I took my CIPS class, and that opened a whole world to me of global real estate. I'm like, wow, this is really exciting. And then I went to Boston to the pinning ceremony for the CIPS, and I met all these phenomenal people, global ambassadors, global coordinators. I had no idea NAR had this whole global sector. And so I got very excited about it. And I said, well, I want to be a global ambassador. So my first year, it was like 2019, I applied to be a global ambassador. And I sent in my application for Lebanon, Turkey, and UAE. And I think I wasn't accepted because obviously, I mean, I had never done any work like this, but I kept accumulating NAR certifications and designations. And then finally, you know, in 2020, I got the appointment. So I applied for Italy, Portugal, and Spain, and I got Netherlands and Belgium. So you'll ask, Netherlands and Belgium, how did that happen? Well, NAR has made a huge priority to have its global ambassadors have dual citizenship. This has been very important because they want their ambassadors to have a real connection with the countries they represent, to be able to speak the languages of those countries. I don't speak Dutch, but I do speak French. So that worked for Belgium. So I said, okay, I'll do it. Anyway, it's been exciting. It was exciting because I'd never done work like this before. I had to get to know all the stakeholders, the global associations, the ambassador associations, the other NAR global ambassadors, the coordinators, and very interesting. But it's been a huge learning curve. And did I mention that this is a volunteer position? Okay. So the global ambassadors support NAR's global mission, which Steve had touched upon earlier. Specifically, we are to promote the ethical real estate practices, realtor network values. We help cooperating agencies implement best practices utilizing NAR tools, products, services. We assist the cooperating agencies as it relates to the partnership, and we try to help maximize engagement and communication. We try to be a resource to NAR's members, both domestic and international. So not only are we working with the ambassador associations, we're also working with the general public and other realtors who will send us questions. Who do I need to connect to? I need this information on this country, blah, blah, blah. So we connect them to those people in those other associations. Directly above the global ambassador, we have the global coordinator. And they basically have a group of countries and they manage the global ambassadors under them. So the staff executive for the GA's countries supports the GA in their work and provides guidance. They must be kept updated on the happenings within the GA's countries. So Alex Escudero, who's the director of NAR's global strategy, is in charge of Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Middle East, Africa, Central America, Caribbean, and South America. And Belgium and the Netherlands fall under him. And my global coordinator is Hanne Sagalowski, and she has been in that position for a number of years. 5 years, yes. She was born in Denmark and then moved to the US when she was at university. And then now she lives in Dallas and works very closely with Steve Trine. So it's important to keep everybody in touch. So whenever I send out an email to anyone, everybody's CC'd on that email. So everybody knows what's going on. Mainly, the relationship and the position is about building relationships, you know, facilitating dialogue between all the stakeholders, representing NAR at meetings, and being parts of delegations and trade missions. We also collaborate and assist partners in their needs. For example, oftentimes we'll get other associations that would like to partner with NAR in those countries. For example, there are other associations in the Netherlands that may like to partner with NAR. but NAR tends to have one partner in each country. So oftentimes we'll get requests from the association in the foreign country asking for specific help. Recently, we had a REACH presentation, which was helping, it's like an investment service that NAR has to help the countries with their technology sector. And they did a couple of presentations to them. We also help them locate instructors for courses that they may want to roll out. For example, if they want to teach CIPS or they want to teach other courses that are NAR courses, then we'll help them find the instructors if they don't already have an instructor in Europe or an instructor that speaks that language. So we also help NAR with their trademark protection, NAR delegation with speaking engagements, market updates, assisting with special projects. So 4 times a year, I reach out to NVM and I say, hey guys, I need a market update for first quarter. So they send me back all the information. I have my questions and then I report to my superior, Hanna Sagalowski, and then she reports to Alex Escudero. And that's how NAR keeps track of what's happening in these countries and trends and, you know, whatever their needs are. So recent accomplishments of global ambassadors, we've helped international realtor members sign up for events. For example, they want to come to the US to the NAR meetings in November. We'll help them get the VIP package or with the logistics of their travels. We've also translated NAR materials. We've hosted webinars for assigned countries. We contribute to NAR's mini course video project. We've spoken at partners' annual conferences. We've assisted with Rome applications. That's a foundation that provides scholarships and funding for foreign associations to come to the US. We do a lot. Let me just put it that way. And here's another list of things that we've done. We've helped grow YPN in assigned regions. We've assisted in new partnership discussions. We've highlighted partner countries on the NAR Global Facebook. Recently, I reached out to NVM because NAR wanted to, you know, showcase the Netherlands and statistics about the Netherlands. So I had NVM, you know, provide us with data and information and articles about the Netherlands. And that was really cool to see all that be posted on NAR's webpage. We also serve on CIPS mentorship programs. We onboard new partners. We assist NAR with the creation of new CIPS courses. We assist with local MLS projects, organize virtual trade missions, give input on global perspectives, and host and participate in networking sessions. So I have really enjoyed my position as the NAR Global Ambassador to Belgium and the Netherlands. This is the first time this June I'm going to go to the Netherlands to meet with them. They're having a property expo. They're not running it, but they will be there attending it. So I'll meet with them. I'm also flying up to New York to meet with them in April at Inman because we haven't seen them in 2 years. So I really wanted to connect with them on a personal basis. These are all folks that I talk to at least once or twice a week and just amazing partners to work with. NVM has been a stellar partner because I've seen that some of my colleagues have not had such wonderful experiences with their global associations. So, and that's it. Any questions? Any questions?
I'd like to just make a comment. I've got connections in the Netherlands and been there, and people are so incredibly wonderful and warm and helpful and just really, really stellar. So I know you didn't expect that posting, but I want to congratulate you on landing some really good people. Same with Belgium.
Yes.
Very similar.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Pete, because we've still got people online who probably couldn't hear that.
Yes. Let me see if, does anybody have any questions?
The
comment made earlier for those of us online was just that Netherlands people are really nice, right?
good.
So Samira has landed a great association to work with and a great bunch of people. I spent a little bit of time working in the Netherlands myself, always found people to be very welcoming, straightforward, open, pragmatic, you know where you stand with them, so no game playing, they are a dream to work with in that respect.
Yeah, and I'm really lucky because I do have Dutch relatives, so every time I get to Amsterdam, I really have a good time.
Any questions for Samira? Anita?
So I was just curious as to how complicated it is to apply for an ambassador position with NAI.
It's not at all. You just have to, like everything else in this field, deadlines, deadlines, deadlines. So Supap Jita is the administrative assistant at the NAR. And if you go to the NAR global page, there's a whole section about being a global ambassador, and the application and the handbook are there, so you can see what all the the responsibilities are, and the application is there. It's it's an easy application, honestly. But what they were really looking for are folks that have, multiple passports. I have 3, American, Italian, and Lebanese. And, with my language ability, my residence overseas, and that's become very important to NAR to be able to dialogue and connect on more than just, a regular level, on a cultural level. So, yeah.
Having been ambassador to the UK before, I can say it is very rewarding, but it is a lot of work.
It is.
I mean, it's fun and you enjoy doing it, but it is a time commitment and, but yeah, absolutely. Had a blast.
Yeah.
Millicent, another question.
Oh, Ghana did sign, by the way.
Say that again?
Ghana is a partner.
Oh, okay, well, that's nice. So my question is, aside of, kind of helping the, other countries to establish their things more strategic, more or less, is there like a business component where they may be encouraging people to come and buy property in the US and maybe helping people here want to explore buying property in the other country? Is that a part of that in your job, or that is outside of the scope?
Well, I can certainly connect you. For example, an American citizen reaches out to me, or a realtor reaches out to me and say, hey, I need a real estate connection in the Netherlands. Who am I going to reach out to? Our partners. And then they'll direct them to, realtors that can help them, that speak English too, and that who are aware of American cultural background, so they can deal with how an American would want to buy a property. So there is that back and forthing that can happen. I've had a lot of people reach out to me about different countries. I often have people reach out to me about Italy because I lived there for so long. I have a lot of connections there too. We have a global ambassador to Italy, Spain, and Portugal. But yeah, I mean, but it's more done on a personal level, not an official level. My position is more of an official level, but I also do that.
Yeah, the ambassador's role is really to put people together, to point you in the right direction, introduce you to the right people. A little bit of a conflict of interest if you're out there just building your own personal business.
Correct.
Right, and sending people back.
That's an absolute no-no. All right.
Any other questions for Samira?
Wonderful.
So our last speaker today, last but not least, right? We have Ms. Cheatham Thanhofer. Cheatham works with Paul International. It's a consulting company who specialize in providing financing for foreign nationals. So all of those people you have who want to purchase second homes, investment real estate here, who want US financing, she is absolutely the go-to lady. She's worked with Paul International since 2017. She was born and raised in Switzerland. Her background was, she's actually has a Turkish background, and she speaks Swiss, German, and Turkish. So like Samira and many of you in the room today, we have a lot of language capabilities here. Please join me in welcoming Gino.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I see some familiar faces. I'm pretty sure I look familiar to you too. I've been around doing presentations all over the place, from Miami, Sarasota to Orlando. I am the US representative of Paul International Consultants. And as Pat said, I've been with the company since 2017. We do not touch any domestic clients, so we are just specialized in foreign national financing. We have clients from all over the world. Kirsten Paul, who is our CEO and the founder of the company, started in 1994 with the German community in Southwest Florida, and it just expanded. She's back in Germany. That's where our headquarters are. Our team speaks 9 different languages. Yeah, we also have clients from the Netherlands, of course. So just going to briefly touch base what we do, who we are, and what we can offer you and your clients. Just basic information that you need in case somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, I'm from the Netherlands, I want to buy a second home. So you have the go-to person to, and give just basic information, what is available out there. As I said, we've been specialized in consulting for national clients for over 25 years. We work independently, so we're not attached to one lender. We have a pool of lenders with between 80 and 100 loan programs, 24 of which we quote on a daily basis. Our headquarters is in Europe. We have somebody in Brazil who moves back and forth from Germany to Brazil. And I myself, I am based in Southwest Florida in Fort Myers. And then we have somebody fairly recently joined in Orlando. And Florida is our main market, but we also do Texas, California, New York. These are like the states that foreign nationals buy the most. Florida is 38%, something like that. We do single family homes, condos, we do rate and term financing, cash outs, new construction, we do CP loans, HELOCs, we do blanket loans, and we also do vacant land. Currently, rate and terms and cash outs are very popular because the market is so crazy. And I can make one example. I have a client who bought a condo a little over a year ago for $99,000 up in Orlando, Davenport. CMA came back 205. So she refinanced and got a cash out and is buying the second condo. It's crazy what the market went through, but I mean, what am I to tell you? You know. And we also do commercial loans. These are case to case, case by case. You know this, with financing, the property only is financed, and we can go up to 80%. That was not possible 2 years ago. We can do it now. 30-year mortgage, that is the standard.
I know about the two previous slides.
Which one?
About the loan, 80%.
This one here? Yes. So it is 20% down plus closing costs, of course. And then if there are any reserves, as you know, each loan program is different. You know, some require 9 months of reserves, some 12, some required in the personal account of the client, and some required with the bank they finance with. Per the basic PITI, you know that And then we do adjustable rate mortgages. We have 3, 5, 7, and 10-year ARMs, caps, of course. And we also offer fixed term finances, 15 and 30 years. This is also pretty basic. Each loan program has different requirements. Some require letters for the credits, and then income letters. We have full doc, semi-full doc, and no doc loans. Depending where the client is from, they sometimes cannot bring in tax returns because their country doesn't have that. So we know what the client, or where the client is from, what loan programs are available, and if we know that he cannot provide the tax returns because they don't have any, so we know which program to run with. So the realtors that work on a daily basis with us, they know me, they have my number. So let's say you have a client, Carla, you just send me an email, introduce the client, say Mr. X and S wants to buy a second home, Sarasota area, purchase price $400,000. Please, look through his scenario and issue him a pre-approval. We do that within 1 business day. We send the client our welcome letter. We have an inquiry form with it. It's 3 to 4 pages in the client's language. It's translated in 9 different languages. So the client completes that. We go over some more questions with the client and issue that pre-approval within 1 business day. And some sample calculations on based on the client's scenario, what is available for him, with details of what is needed. This is our most popular program. 2 months ago, we, oh my God, we closed this on a daily basis. It was crazy. It was below 4%. We closed several of these deals at 3.75%. It's a little higher now, but it's minimal documentation required, no proof of income, no reserves account. LTV was 80%, cash out is 70%, is the one program which is the highest. Usually cash outs are between 60-65% LTV. And it is, again, there is a 5-year, 7-year, and the 30-year option available. And you can buy the interest rate down to the bare minimum. And this program has actually 2 variations. One is requires a 30-day proof of funds, and the other 60 days. There's a variation in the interest rate, but once we look through the client scenario and see, okay, he has a larger cash deposit, which he does not want to or cannot explain, then we move from the 60-day to the 30-day. So we can play with the client's information. And the title can be in personal account, a personal name, or in an entity. And the client can close without leaving his country. This was a big issue, throughout the pandemic, because there was a travel ban, people could not come in, so they could close at their embassy. If the embassy was closed, we used an apostille. So the deadlines are 5 days generally for execution of the sales contract. Then we ask the realtors, and if you have a client that finances with us, always speak to your consultant what dates to put in. Currently, the market is so hot, the appraisal takes so long to come back. An appraisal 2 years ago was within 10 days, we had that. Now we have a surge appraisal that comes back within 10 to 12 days. So that's why it's very important, especially for the finance contingency and the closing date. Okay. So once the client gets in touch with us, as I said, we issue the pre-approval, we give them some sample calculations. You guys make an offer. If that offer is accepted, we start the loan application with the client. We collect his documentation. Once everything is collected, we submit it with the client, with the lender. You know, just basically, I'm pretty sure you had clients that finance, so it's not that different. But what the main difference is that the documents need to be translated. You know, if the client is not in the UK, then, you know, the documents are either in German, Turkish, whatever, and needs to be translated, and that takes some time too. We get a conditional loan approval within, let's say, 3 to 6 business days, depending on the loan program or the bank. The appraisal will be ordered, then we have a loan commitment. Whatever conditions are still open, we'll go through those with the client. And we coordinate the closing with the title company, with the client. If the client is closing at an embassy, we make those appointments for the client as well. Yeah, we basically, we explain everything to the client. The client can just close his eyes, give us his hand, and we walk him from the initial consultation to the closing. If my clients close locally in Southwest Florida, Naples, you know, I've been in Sarasota too at closing, so I accompany them, and just, you know, a helping hand. If they don't understand anything, I can translate for them too. Yeah, and then we have a closing. You get your check.
That's what it's all about.
Right? This is just whatever I told you now. You know, if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask me.
Phone number?
Yes, I'll give you, I have a business card.
Samira has a question. So I'm just curious to know, what kind of loans are these? Are they portfolio loans? Are they?
Yes, so it's conventional loans, but like depending on where the client is from, we can go with no doc, you know, semi-full, but they're all U.S. banks. We do not work with any foreign
US
banks. Yes,
Okay,
US banks.
I was thinking they were foreign banks.
No.
Well, they have access to a number of lenders, right? So
Yes.
you find the lender who's the best fit for that particular
Correct,
client's
yes.
situation.
We usually offer the client 2 to 3 different options, and then he runs with whatever he likes. We, of course, we don't want to move him to one other than to other. He has to decide what fits him best.
When you do come to closing, do you translate those documents
in
their language?
No, we do not translate the closing documents, but we explain everything to them in their own language. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're dealing with contracts here in the US, all contracts have to be in English, but it's so much nicer when you have someone in the room speaking the same language. It really makes a big difference.
It does.
Any more questions? I'll tell you a little success story. We had a client who bought a house in Lakewood Ranch several years ago now. And then she had her sister who moved to Northport. And she said, you know, I really would like to buy a house in Northport to be close to my sister, but I'm stuck with this investment property you sold me in Lakewood Ranch. So she actually worked with Ball International and did a cash out refinance on the Lakewood Ranch house and bought a home in Northport. And that was close to 3 years ago. She just did another cash out refi on the Northport house and bought another investment property in Northport. So smart lady. From one house, she now has 3 homes producing rental income for her. And she could not have done that without your foreign national cash out refi. So, you know, some of us have been in the market a long time, and we remember 60% LTV for foreign buyers, right? 70%, we thought it was great. So now we're up to 80%. That's really quite amazing. So bear that in mind. Any questions? Millicent, you don't have a question for this speaker? She feels left out now.
I really. Yeah, and we had clients from Guyana, so I did actually 2-3 months ago, we did a presentation.
So now, this is not Guyana.
Ghana, sorry.
Ghana.
Okay.
So that's a difference.
The West African Ghana. So Gina has very kindly brought along a little gift because she would love to get you on her mailing list. You could give us your business cards, we'll do a little drawing. She's going to be here during refreshments. Beth, you had another question?
No, I just don't want them to forget Dave.
Please don't forget Dave's business
Can
card.
I get your card?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so Tess, when is our next GBC event? Remember I said at the beginning, save the date? April 19th. 3 glasses of wine and cheese to go and the lady behind. Before we finish, I'd like to recognize our sponsor. Robin, don't go away. Oh, okay. Robin Leacock of Donor Title has very kindly sponsored today's meeting and our wine and cheese, which is always nice to end on high. So I'm going to invite her up just so she can tell us who she is and what she does. And she has an amazing dress and shoes today. And a very interesting packaging.
Yes. It's a
Another
cheese board.
a cheese board for drawing too.
Over to you. I will model this for you. Just don't take it.
On this side.
I'm sorry? Okay, yeah, there's food and wine in the back. I should probably not mention that first. We're getting,
I didn't get one. Denise.
I actually need to clarify, it's Magnolia title. So we had our whole team leave, yeah, we had our whole team leave. We're working with a team out of Texas that they've got over 100 years in the business, and the DOMA team that was supposed to be so tech savvy was not as tech savvy as what they thought they were. And actually, I went to their sales training meeting, and I think they'd like to do away with all of us if they could, but anyhow, Magnolia's down on, it's on near Chase Bank on 301 in Puco, and then we have an office coming in Bradenton. So we're very excited about that. We've got, thank you for coming. We've got wine and cheese in the back. And then I have a cheese plate. I bought this from, I don't know if you know Daniel in his office downtown on 27th, what is it, 27th State Realty. Anyhow, his significant other has a bunch of great baskets. So I'll go ahead and draw. One more. We've got one more.
No question now, you have a card? Come on.
Hello.
Hello.
You can announce the winner.
Oh, yeah. I'll do that.
Zeta.
Any questions, feedback, comments, anything for the good of the order that we need to all hear? Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning when you talked about the 18th. Is it from 2 to 4 here? For the next event?
It's 3 o'clock on the 19th of April.
19th.
Yes, and we are talking about taxes, attorneys and money. What could possibly go wrong?
On the 19th.
April 19th. Right, I would like to thank you all for being here. It's really good for us to get good attendance at our events. You know, it's a lot of work to put these things together. I hope you enjoyed them. If you have any feedback, then send me a quick email if you've got any ideas for programs. We're always open to new ideas too. And I look forward to sharing a glass of wine with you all. Thanks again.